All right. I have 5:29 and a half. I have 5:30. So we are going to get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the City Council work session for Minnetrista, September 6th. And I'll do a quick roll call here. We have with us this evening Allison Fauski, our city engineer, council members present. We have Kathleen Refkin and McGregor, John Chumperlin, Pam Mortensen. I'm Lisa Whalen. I'm the mayor. And we have Allie Paulfus, who is director of administration, Gary Peters, who is our public works director, and then also Paul Falls, public safety director. It's too many publics. So anyhow, all right. With that, so first we're going to start out with a couple of introductions, reintroductions, I might say, Adam. And nice to see you out of the big costume. So with that, so who wants to make the introductions? Allie?
I will make both. We'll start with Adam. We like him better. Kidding. Adam was hired on June 6th and had his first day on July 11th. He actually worked with the city of Minnetrista as a public works maintenance worker from 2014 to 2017 and left to pursue a career in a different field. He obtained his bachelor's degree in business administration and worked with South Metro Transit in customer service and human resources. Most recently, Adam was with the city of Plymouth in their public works streets department since 2021. And we are happy to have him back on board. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that sums it up
All right.
Perfectly. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, great.
Well, thank you for being here and welcome back.
And then we have Chase Donal as the CSO officer. He was hired on July 18th and had his first day on July 19th. He graduated from Waconia High School and is currently enrolled in Ridgewater College for law enforcement. Previously, he worked in loss prevention at Shields, and he will continue to pursue his degree in law enforcement and attend skills next summer once he's eligible. He's doing a great job so far, and we'd love to keep him in the department once he gets licensed.
So my reference regarding his costume, he was McGregor for National Night Out. McGruff.
Was it you?
I know. I was looking at it. He was McGruff.
Played you very well.
Good job.
And poor guy, he had only been on the job, a couple days or so. And it was like 90-some degrees, so it was so hot. So he was in the squad, and then in the back of the squad, and it was not fun for him. So I apologize for that. Thank you for being such a good sport, and welcome on board. Thank you for being here. So, all right. So we just like to do this that way the council can put a name and a face together and kind of know who you are, and so when they see you out there, they kind of know who you are. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you don't have to stay, but you're welcome to. So next on our agenda, we have our roads discussion. Who's going to take that? Gary or Allison?
I'll take that, Madam Mayor, members of council. So 3 weeks ago, we had our neighborhood meeting for the Morning View project area, and then the next night we had the neighborhood meeting for North Arm. I'd like to thank all the council members and the mayor for attending those meetings. I think that was really helpful and important for the residents to see some council members at those meetings. At the reconstruction meeting, there was we had a packed house. We had some folks standing at the back, so it was a very well attended meeting. A lot of questions being asked. We're still hearing some folks that we heard from some folks that they were glad to get the clarification on the assessment, that the $25,000 was not the proposed assessment. It was the genesis for the special valuation report. So it kind of saw a lot of light bulbs going on in the audience as they understood that the assessment values would be capped. There's still some discussion, I think, from some of the residents that think that the water main would not need to be replaced. And then also with regards to curb and gutter, it's hard to say, are we hearing from a minority, but we were hearing from some folks that they didn't want the curb and gutter. So we still have, I think we still have some work to do as far as, with the public hearing finding out where folks really lie on this project. I know Adam Gadbois over the weekend did receive another email from a resident in support of the project. So, anything else I'm missing?
Well, one of the things, I think the three of us were there, right? And you guys, okay.
Right.
So just kind of a recap. The discussion about the water main, I think, was one of the hot topics, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I think Aaron, he's the engineer from AE2S. I think he really put it very succinctly and very clearly, because there's been talk about the current pipe that's in the ground has a 100-year lifespan. And so why are we replacing it now? Well, he kind of compared it to an automobile. He says, if an automobile, let's say, has a 15 or 18-year lifespan, and now you're at 9 or 10 years and things start to go wrong, how much money do you pump into it before you say we need a new one? And he said, generally with a 50-year pipe, you're going along like this and it's pretty good, and then it starts deteriorating. He said, too, in a perfect world, perfect installation, perfect soil conditions, yes, maybe it can last 100 years, but that's in a perfect setting. And as we know, nothing is perfect. So I think the clarity and the light bulb went out in a lot of people, like, oh, okay, now it's 50 years almost, and we're starting to see some breaks. And he was saying on the back end, you're going to see more breaks. That's generally what happens, no different than a car. And so he said, when you're doing a project like this, not to replace it would not be a good idea. And I think a lot of people saw the sensibility to that. So that was one of the things. And like you said, too, I think the fact that it's not going to be a $25,000 assessment really kind of turned a lot of people, because now we're looking at somewhere between $95,000 and $11,000, as you saw in your packet earlier. So I think that's a lot more.
For me, there was one key statement that, if I was in the crowd, would have, and I had an opinion negatively, would have changed it. That was, I believe Jasper said he's talked to the company that manufactures those pipes that are in the ground, gave them an update on what had been taking place when they went in. And they said they'd replace them. Now, certainly could have been trying to sell more product, but I don't see it that way. I think that was an honest assessment that says, geez, you got 50 years on them. They're not made the same today as they were then. They're probably not wrapped.
Mm-hmm. That was the other thing, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that if I was sitting on the fence, that moved me, and I think it moved some of the crowd.
Yeah, a lot of things came to light because there were a lot of good questions. There were a lot of good questions, a lot of good comments, and I think, and after the meeting, when the meeting was adjourned, it was kind of a free-for-all, if you will. A lot of people came up and said, no, do the project. And even people that we know had been here previously that had been opposed to it said, yeah, you should do the project. So, yeah.
I thought the turning point was when that older gentleman said, I've been here since 1973, and it was $5,000 to redo this then. And all of a sudden, that made the 9 to 11 not so painful. And I saw what looked like a total wave go across the group, as this was going to be okay. But what is it that we do as far as option 1 and option 2? How will we actually know how many people want one or the other?
Well, I suppose you'd have to do a survey. I think it should be our decision whether we do the rural section, no curb and gutter, or we do the full-blown with curb and gutter. The assessment is going to be the same
One way or the other.
to the residents,
Okay.
regardless of which direction or which option we choose.
Just $500,000 less than bonding.
Well, that's a consideration. So, and I think, that should be part of our discussion too. But so, first question: are we going to move forward with the project? Are you in favor of it? If not, then we have to pivot and do something different next year.
No, I'm in favor.
Yes.
I am in favor.
Okay, so we'll move forward with the project. We just now have to decide or kind of look at kind of the scope of the Morning View project, whether it's going to be curb and gutter or rural section. Gary, what do you want to weigh in, and then Allison weigh in and kind of give us some information on that?
For me, curb and gutter is probably the way to go. Couple of big points on curb and gutter. Not only does it give you a decent area for your water to make sure you're conveying your storm water to where you want it to go, but it's going to give you edge support. If you look at a lot of the roads that are kind of in a rural setting or whatever, it's not so bad. People aren't parking on the side of the road there and stuff like that. But if you don't have curb and gutter and people are parking on the road, the lawns are going to get messed up all the time. It turns into a real mess on the side of the roads. But when you have that curb and gutter, you have that definite edge. You're going to get edge support on the road. Your pavement's not going to start to break up 5-6 years down the road. You're going to see that in a lot of these areas where in a neighborhood, if you don't have it, you're going to have that edge breaking up. I mean, it's going to happen because there's the cars and parking on it and stuff where you have that. So to me, it's it's a no-brainer. It'd be curb and gutter the whole way. I mean, especially in an area like that, especially around the lake where you can get the water, storm water, to direct it to where it needs to go, get it into either sump catches, a holding pond before it gets to the lake to get the sediment out. It'll just, it's for me, it's a win all the way around.
So it'd be curb and gutter 100%, every square foot.
I would. The problem that you run into, and if you look at like hard scrabble areas, a lot of the areas, where do you start and stop? You have people that are like, well, why didn't I get it? Why am I getting assessed, but I didn't get curb? Trying to explain to them, that, just because you're on a slightly less incline, you don't need it. To me, it should be everything, just like what was done in Loring, what was done on Stonebridge. It's just, it completes the area, especially if it's, urban setting like that. I mean, rural is different. Yes, I get that, but when everything's packed in there like that, it just makes it more complete and looks a lot neater and more finished too.
And how long does that last?
Curb and gutter, 50 years.
Okay.
I mean, blacktop curb, maybe you get 10, 15 years out of it. I mean, it'll get plowed off and get that. You're going to get some settlement here and there. Of course, you always do. It doesn't matter where you're at. Are they going to crack? Sure. I mean, that's why we're going through these mill and overlays. You go through and you patch them here and there, but you got 50 years out of a concrete curb,
Okay.
at least.
And Allison, do you get a longer life out of the road with curb and gutter? I mean, does that?
Well, as Gary indicated, you certainly protect the edge of that curb or the edge of that bituminous a lot better with curb and gutter. The other component that we talk about too with longevity of a street is to keep the water off of it. So when you reconstruct a rural road, you can certainly get that crown back in and get the water shedding off there. The challenge in some of these areas when you don't use curb and gutter is getting that runoff to a system. There's no ditch system out there. So, it's going into, I think Adam's got a few complaints from residents on the lakeside where they're lower than the road, and so it's going into there. Whereas with curb and gutter, you can go and get the curb and gutter through the driveway, get that drainage conveyed so that it's off the road to a storm catch basin and to a treatment system. Whereas a rural residential road, if you had ditches, you could certainly do that, but we don't have ditches in this area. Or, well, I should say very few areas.
There are some, but yeah.
How much of that road is curbed right now? Of these roads?
I don't think any.
I don't think
Only what
Where-
we've put in as public works over the
Yeah.
years, where people have requested putting curb in. So I mean,
very
it's
small.
hit and miss here and there as areas, but a lot of them are where the houses are lower than the actual road itself. So the water was coming out down into the garage. So we've got a lot of blacktop curb that we've put in there.
So the curb comes up, and so somebody's driveway is going down, but the curb comes up, and then the water doesn't go down their driveway.
Correct.
Yep. And then, is it easier for permitting with MCWD?
I don't know that I would say the permitting is necessarily easier. They're looking for treatment of the impervious surface, whether it's curb and gutter or not. I think when we look at the curb and gutter option, we can better demonstrate that we're able to get that water to the treatment area. Whereas if we are still trying to work with the rural section, conveying that water to one location would certainly be difficult.
But when you say treatment, what kind of treatment are we going to be doing?
If you look, mostly rate control.
Okay.
We were looking at that fire lane because once you're looking at getting it piped through there, you need to get those discharge rates to the existing rate there.
So we're not going to treat it at all?
I think we can get some treatment through the inline system, but we're not looking at a stormwater pond per se.
No. I was wondering if you were going to use any stormwater catch basins that
Some
filter.
catches.
Yep.
Some
Yes.
that will filter it.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think there
have
are
this-
some that do that.
Well, we'll use the sump catch basins, which the solid settle out to the bottom 3 feet,
Okay.
and then you vacuum it out.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions?
One question. Regardless, whichever way we decide to do it, if we do the curb, is that going to be part of the assessment? Did I hear you saying it's not?
No, it's the assessment would stay the same regardless of which one we do.
Amount.
Yeah, because it's not the 50%. Okay, so whether we do the urban or curbed segment or, project, or we do the rural project, it's still the assessment is still going to be the same.
Okay. And right now, the assessment looks like it would be between 9,500 and 10,000 max.
What was it, 10 or 11? But so when I talked to Jasper, he said typically what you would do is assess the lower amount so that if there's ever somebody contesting it, you have a stronger case, if you will. So he's not here tonight, so I'm kind of speaking for him, but I did talk to him about this, and he said he would be recommending the 9,500. So you could go higher, but you have a stronger case if you go with the lowest amount. If that makes sense.
It does. I'm just thinking if we it's going to be a lot more expensive to do the curb and gutting, and there will be more appeal and more value to their home. So if we do that, I would say we should go to the max. It's only $500 difference between $9,500 and $10,000.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's a decision the council can make. I mean, it's certainly, yeah, I don't think you're going to get $500. But on the other hand, it's not that big of a deal either. It's a few $1,000s, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, in the original report, it said 9,500 to 10,000 for the non-lakefront, and then the lakefronts are 10 to 12. So 10 would make sense because they're getting assessed the same thing. So otherwise, it would look like the lakefront are getting the $500 discount.
Yeah, but we said in the meeting that wasn't going to be true. We said that they were all going to get the same.
Yeah, we've never assessed differently.
Right,
Yeah.
but that way the 10,000 is applicable to both sides of the street.
Sure.
In theory.
Sure.
Like both of them.
Okay. So at our regular meeting then, we'll have this on the agenda, and then we'll bring it forward, and then, again, more questions or comments. I think maybe if either Gary or somebody can just kind of summarize what we discussed here at the work session. Is that, or Allison?
Sure. we can
Okay.
certainly-
Just, because, just kind of summarize what we talked about and then what the council decided. So my understanding, give me head nods, we're going to do the urban section with the curb and gutter for East View, Morning View, and West Edge. Then we will do the rural section for North Arm. It wouldn't make sense to do the curb and gutter there. And now North Arm, let's see, they had, what was the assessment there? I think 95 as well,
I think
wasn't
it's
it?
9,500 to 11,000.
To 11.
9 to 11.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to do 95 or 10? Everybody gets
10 and
10.
everyone does 10.
Everybody gets 10. Okay, and then also, so the Gillespie Park and the Westwood Church, are we in agreement there for these properties at 17 to 20? So for the Gillespie Park, so we get to pay it. And then the church would be 22.8 to 24. Any thoughts there? Round it up to 23, making it even 23. You have to take notes because I'm not taking notes.
I can see all
So I have notes that you're looking at $10,000 for a residential equivalent unit for both project areas, and then you were looking at $23,000 for Westwood Church, and then did you have a number in mind for Gillespie?
Does it matter? We're paying it. I mean, does it matter?
No,
Because it's the cities, right? So we're paying it no matter what.
correct.
Okay.
Just do the max of 20.
Yeah.
20,400.
Okay, and then the other one was the golf course, and that was where? What page was that on? now?
43 to 53.
So 43. What page? I'm not finding that page.
On the very last page.
Okay.
172.
Okay, that's why. Thank you. Any thoughts there?
What's the range?
It's 43 to 53. I don't think you'd want to go the higher end, but
To 45, 46?
45?
Sure.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think,
Excuse me,
Yeah,
did
go
anyone from Burl Oaks or the church show up to these meetings?
Yeah.
Earl Oaks
Burl
was
Oaks.
here. Yeah.
So they're aware.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that time, that's a good question. At the time of the open house, we didn't have that assessment range for the non-residential. So that was something that we told them we would follow up with.
But if they have, is it 4 parcels?
3.
3? So
They have 4 parcels total, but one of them does not, if I'm remembering correctly, one doesn't abut the project.
Okay. So we'll have a discussion with them or let them
So
know
with
that.
Burl Oaks, if they have 4, is
I
that
think
what you're saying?
you said they only have 3.
3 on the road.
So they would have to pay 3 times 45,000 per.
No, no,
No,
total.
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 So we would look at, I mean, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can go by front footage, or you can go by area or area front footage. I mean, at that point, I think you're kind of slicing and dicing it, because if you look at the largest parcel actually has very little frontage. So it's kind of a goofy situation. So, and since it's all one taxpayer, I don't know that it really makes a difference, but we could certainly come up with something that looks logical when you look at the area and the frontage of each parcel.
Okay.
How did we do it for the school?
We just did it on a per parcel,
I think
and it was
we did it on a
40%.
frontage basis, if I remember correctly, because they were different dollar amounts for the school district.
Was it? Okay.
Again, it's an assessment methodology. Since the valuation report looked at the benefit as a whole to the golf club, I think we could, unless the golf club has a preference, we could look at a variety of ways of splitting that, how to calculate it.
Right. Okay.
Do you anticipate further discussion during the council meeting from attendees regarding
No,
this?
we made it at the meeting, remember, we said we would be talking about it at our work session, and then ordering a feasibility if we're going to go forward with it. And I can see by the mass audience here that I think people have concluded that they trust our judgment, maybe. I don't anticipate it, but
Okay.
we could certainly, we'll find out. No, I think, honestly, I think the assessment amount was one of the biggest driving factors for people not wanting the project. And then I think understanding about the water line and why it should be replaced now. I just think understanding all of that, a lot of people felt more comfortable with the project. In fact, it's interesting. So a gentleman that had the petition, and brought the petition and said all these people don't want it. After the meeting, he said, "You got to do the project." He said, "Don't not do the project." He says, "Do the project." So I think it was a good idea to have that meeting. And at the North Arm meeting, do you live in North Arm?
I do not.
Okay. Didn't want to say anything bad about people in North Arm. No, just there weren't very many people here. Very few attendees, but the ones that attended, I didn't get the feeling that they were opposed to it.
No, not at all.
No,
Okay.
no, they ask good questions, but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
none of them were
And I did get a call from a gentleman that felt North Arm should have been done years ago, and I said, I really agree with you. But so I think there's a lot of support for it. So with that, I did ask Jasper this afternoon, and I don't know if you would know the answer to this or not. And again, it might depend on PFA funding availability, but would the project to replace this pipe be eligible for PFA funding? Did you look into that or ask about that?
No, we did not look into that. I can make a note to take a look at
Okay, and I know Jasper said that PFA wasn't even being funded, so they may not even have money for funding. So, but if you could look into it, I know we don't qualify if it's for growth, but this isn't for growth, and it does have to be replaced. So, I'd like to find out about that because the interest rates are quite a bit less. And then when we do the bonding, and again, this is something we can talk about when we do the bonding, but I'm assuming are we going to do two bonds? Because how do you do that? Because one bond is being paid for out of water rates and area charges, and the other bond is general obligation bonds.
I am not sure.
I thought Brian said it's one bond and then it's just finagling the payments.
I think you're right, Ken.
I
Okay.
thought that's what he said. when we
So the
asked
only
last
way
time.
it would be two bonds is if we can do PFA for the water line, for the pipe. And we'll find out.
Okay.
We might not be able to. But all right. Anything else? Otherwise, if I could, I don't know if we can do this. Can I just add one thing to the agenda since we have some time? I'd like to ask Gary to give us an update on the wells and the water.
Yes, please do.
Could we do that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What do you want to specifically know?
Everything. No. Where are we at with the tests and so on?
Still waiting to get some water testing results back from Trout on the last water sampling there. We've got everything else back. They are working on starting the 3 and 4 well siting. We're waiting to get a bunch of stuff from WSB back to us to get to them. We will be bringing back task orders 2, 3, and 4 for both all the well siting stuff. Also for the water modeling to make sure that it's going to be compatible where everything's going. And then for testing of 3 and 4, we're looking at, especially 4, if it's feasible to use that as a temporary. It's very easy if we can put some kind of a screen filter in there, in line right there, since right there. But first off, I'd like to get that water tested to make sure everything's kosher with that water and everything's up to par, that we can just treat it directly point source and put it in.
Is 4 Mount Simon?
Yes.
Okay. So
That's why. Well, so is 3, but 3's in a better part of the aquifer. So,
well, 3 is in Jordan.
no, that's Mount Simon too, through the Prairie du Chien.
Oh, I thought it was the
No.
Jordan. Okay.
No, we don't have anything in the Jordan right now.
Okay.
So, but we're going to get that. They're getting that started. First see if that water, quote unquote, can be treated at point source and used. Mount Simon does have high radium, so we just want to make sure that we're within the tolerable levels. If we can get by doing a real quick something simple to temporarily use that, that'd be great until we get going on it. But everything's getting rolling here on the getting stuff set up where things are going to go. The problem is right now there's no development in that area. That's still an undeveloped area. So where the water piping is going to go and all that's still kind of subject to change. So we're trying to figure out where we're going to tie into the system, where everything's going. At least we know the area and what's there now with the new Med Council Force mains, our gravity mains. So that helps us a lot that way. So there'll be a little bit of design too. There was no access to that besides a trail, walking trail. So that'll have to be re-looked at, redone to make that supporting vehicle weight and stuff like that, especially for chemical delivery and stuff, to get into that site. So the trail will go probably, to a 12-foot driveway area. So, what I say, getting in there is going to be the tough part right now yet, because there's just no access at this point yet. But they're moving forward. It's, slow and steady.
Okay.
We're getting there.
So what you're thinking is drilling the 2 wells, and if number 4 is okay to use, we would pump that directly into the system as a, if you will, backup kind of, or
Correct. Using it right now.
auxiliary.
Right. The problem with it right now is it keeps collapsing on itself, so there's a lot of sediment in there that keeps pumping into the system. That's why we don't like to use it. So actually, if you actually look what's coming through, you can actually see the little grain.
I thought we were going to cap that one. So
we will eventually, but in the interim, for the next till the water treatment plant's online, we're looking at, can we put some kind of a little filter system in there to use it right now in the interim to help stabilize the system.
Okay.
So right now it's just basically if there's a major fire, we turn that on, so we can get more water flow to it. It's just the quality of water with the sand that's in there. It's a real fine grained sand. We don't like to pump that into the system. So that's why we're looking at, is there something we can do in the interim for the next 2-3 years to make that usable at this point to go.
So Gary, how long would it take to get the 2 new wells up and running?
With everything, you're talking treatment plant, probably 2.5 years.
Not a treatment plant.
Well, those wells are not going to pump. They're going to go right to the treatment plant. We're not going to put those directly into the system.
Okay, why not?
Because you're going to go right to the treatment plant with that, because that's where your chemical injections are going to be. Otherwise, you'd have basically 2 new houses again with chemical point treatment there, and then send everything to to the treatment plant. So you're a redundant system. That's why it would make no sense, and you'd have all that extra cost. And you'd have right now you just put a submersible there. You're done. Cap it. You just have that small well head right there. Otherwise, you're talking a well house. Now you're talking chemical treatment and all that. So it's just more economical to do that way.
Okay.
That's why I say we get 4 tested. If we can get that to help in the interim, we'll be money ahead. So
okay, good. And when will we know?
What's that?
When will we know?
As soon as we get test results back there.
Okay.
I just got all the task orders back for these, so we'll get that started to get some sampling done, so they can get that turned in and see what we got, and set up with Mike here for next week. Hopefully, knock on wood, everybody stays healthy. We can keep everybody around. We can get some test pumping going there with 4, and they can see what's going on, because we can isolate that through the fire hydrant right there, because basically it comes from point source right past the hydrant, so we can dead end it and just pump it all directly out there, and they can take samples and they can see what's going on with it right there. So
okay. How is the water quantity holding up?
we're doing fine. It's been a really good year. The extra tower did help quite a bit. We did have a little bit of time with trying to keep it there a little bit, but we were able to maintain, I think along with the tower, but just, having the HOA on board for both Hunter's Crest and for Woodland Cove, helping control the water flow a little bit and what they're using. And we did we did try filling their ponds for a time there, because it's on a refill when they need it through the city water, which it's a great thing for us. I mean, it's a great revenue builder for us, and so
But then we also have to make sure that we're not overextending our numbers too.
correct, and that's what we're kind of watching that. So we did a bunch of testing just to see if we could do it. We did keep up with it even during the peak period. When it did get that, we told them right away, hey, we're shutting her down if it happens. We did get that low, so we did shut it down. But we had 5 straight days where we pumped that we were able to keep towers at a steady level. So
Okay.
about 82 gallons a minute was going into their pond, so it's not a lot. It's a 2-inch feed, but it's something to help them. They are looking. I did see the applications come through. They are looking at doing their own wells out there to
Oh, good.
refill their ponds,
Yeah.
which is a great thing for them. You know, I say, hate to see the revenue go, but in the grand scheme of things, to I'm going to say waste treated water on grass,
Right.
it just doesn't
Yeah.
pay. Or this way, they'll be money ahead, and we'll be water ahead. So.
Good. Other questions? So when will we get a timetable?
I'm hoping to get one here. I actually have a phone meeting with them tomorrow to discuss that. So I'm hoping to get some timelines from them tomorrow and go and see where we're sitting at and kind of just a rough estimate on all that. So yeah, I got a phone meeting at 3:00 with them tomorrow. So
Okay, sounds good. And any update with St. Bonnie?
Jasper's going there on Wednesday. I've got a prior commitment with my wife. But he's going to go talk to them see where they're kind of thinking on that.
Okay.
But right now in the interim, I don't see it moving forward. That's just my personal opinion, talking with their public works guys and stuff. So, I mean, we're knock on wood right now. In an emergency situation, we're able to open if we have to. We did open up twice here now, and we had an issue, and then they had an issue. So we know the systems work. We know everything is in proper alignment. So
Okay.
it's if it's an emergency, we'll open it up, and But right now, I think we're holding our own, and I think we'll be fine.
Good. Okay, great. That's all the questions I have. But I'm sure they're all the questions you guys have.
I did.
All right. I don't have anything else. Otherwise, so we can be adjourned and have a bit of a break. You guys were so efficient with the road discussion. So. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Kathleen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes by vote. We are adjourned until 7 o'clock for our regular meeting.